You're listening to More Than Good Food, where our goal is to have honest conversations with women about what it means to live a healthy life. I'm your host, Brooke Gordon, and this is episode 2. I am really excited to have nutritionist Julie Daniluk join me today to talk about detoxing and what it really means. Julie is one of my favorite cookbook authors. Her copy of Meals That Heal Inflammation helped to rekindle my own mindfulness about what we eat. Her book has helped over 100,000 people enjoy allergy-free foods that taste great and assist their body in the healing process. Her second bestseller, Slimming Meals That Heal, explores why inflammation causes weight gain and how anti-inflammatory superfoods shed pounds without dieting. Julie is also the host of Healthy Gourmet, a reality cooking show that looks at the ongoing battle between taste and nutrition. Julie has appeared on hundreds of television and radio shows, which is why I'm so honored she could join me today. She's been on Dr. Oz show and is a resident expert for the Marilyn Dennis show. I've seen some of those episodes, and my favorite one is her show about teas. Julie's latest book, Hot Detox, embraces the ancient wisdom of India and Asia, applying the time-tested intelligence of warming up your body's core. Inspired by hot yoga practices and backed by over 600 peer-reviewed scientific studies, Julie's detox system will help your body to gently rid many of the toxins you experience in our modern world. And it is her basis of the science mixed with all of that traditional knowledge, which is one of the reasons why I love her book so much. And we'll have a link to all of that in the show notes today as we talk about her Hot Detox program. So without further ado, this is Julie joining me on a call. So Julie, it is my absolute pleasure to have you join me today to talk about your new Hot Detox anti-inflammatory program to heal your gut and cleanse your body. I wanted to start our discussion with some questions from my readers. The first one being, what is the difference between a cleanse, a detox, and clean eating?
I love this question, and I think it's the first time I've ever been asked. So just thank you so much for this opportunity to speak to this. Detox, actually, medically, detox is considered a very serious condition. If you need a detox, it's because you probably had PCB poisoning or heavy metal poisoning, or you are an alcoholic and you need to be dried out. So detox in the medical world is really quite significant. But in the health food world, in the naturopathic world, we use the word detox interchangeably with a cleanse, meaning we're moving into a phase where we're using those foods as a way to completely take a rest from our normal eating patterns and to give our liver the opportunity to purge more toxins than normal by making sure that we have a lot of nutrients. Now, that's my definition of a good cleanse or detox, but I have to say that some detoxes out there are a real concern because they're missing those critical nutrients. So I just want to say a healthy cleanse or detox, you want to look for a food-based program that really has vitamin A through zinc and a balance of your macronutrients, your proteins, your fats, and carbohydrates, and also plenty of liquids. I'm concerned when people are not under the guidance of a naturopathic doctor, and they try on, say, a lemonade fast, or they try on the cabbage soup diet, because those really are missing a lot of nutrition and can be quite harmful. And then clean eating, well, clean eating is a massive spectrum, and really when we think of clean eating, we're trying to move towards a menu that's free of harmful foods. So moving away from deep fried foods and white flour and white sugar. But there's 100 opinions, or thousands of opinions really, on what clean eating really is. So I think that we can really safely say that a cleanse or a detox is a phase in which you head into a menu that eliminates harmful foods and bolsters the nutrients you need to cleanse your liver and bowel.
Awesome. So that's quite a bit of terminology, and even just what you were describing, there's some confusion, using different words depending on who you're talking to, if it's your doctor or your naturopath. And you also touched on the fact that there's some mixed messages about detoxing. If you were searching online, some even call it dangerous. And you sort of spoke a bit to that. So can you help us with some of the misconceptions about detoxing and what it is? And then maybe lead us into what are some of the benefits of a hot detox over some of the more common methods?
Sure. So detoxification in the naturopathic world is giving your body certain nutrients to accelerate purging toxins from the liver, because the liver is really the hub where all toxins are processed, and then it gets dumped into our bile gets moved out of our bowels. So we really want to look at those two areas, but we can also dramatically increase clearance of toxins by also improving our kidney function, by opening up our skin, which we'll get into when we talk about hot detox, because it's all about increasing sweating. So there's many areas of the body that you can focus on cleansing, but mostly in the naturopathic realm, when they say cleanse or detox, they are talking about making sure that the liver has what it needs to detoxify. But now moving into the misconceptions around that, I know you were wisely bringing up, why does the medical world, why does the conventional medical industry say that some cleanses are dangerous and that they're bunk, that they're unnecessary? I think this is so fascinating. And are you finding that amongst the people that you are talking to, that there is some concern around detoxification?
There has been. I mean, again, this is one of the questions that came directly from my readers, and which was really interesting to me, her worry about, why is it dangerous? Because you hear that messaging that you need to, or you should be helping support your liver, and a cleanse can do that. And then on the flip side, so it's definitely part of conversation, yes.
Yes, so I think a big thing to keep in mind is that when doctors are concerned around detoxes, it's because they don't know really. They aren't trained in the realm of herbalism, and their concern is if you're on herbs, they may conflict with certain medications that you're taking. So I really do think that there is something to be noted, that if you want to go on an advanced cleanse and you so happen to be on a lot of medication, it's really important for you to seek the help of a naturopathic doctor or a functional medicine doctor. These are people with incredible specialty in combining conventional medications with alternative naturopathic remedies, because there really is some conflict there. But if you don't have a huge med list, then you are certainly in better shape to be able to partake of a food-based cleanse. I don't suggest radical fasting without it being supervised, but using the hot detox is perfectly safe, like so safe that I have younger people on it. I've had even pregnant women using some of the recipes because it's so clean.
And Julie, what are the benefits of it being a hot detox?
The hot detox is specifically beneficial because it's focused on the traditional Chinese medicine perspective, that in the colder months, it's a very good idea to eat warming food. And by warming things up, we have a greater chance of sweating. So in the hot detox, we really talk a lot about hydrotherapy and saunas and hot yoga, which are all the rage right now, because that dramatically increases the ability for the skin to wick away PCBs, heavy metals. Did you know that you can clear more of these toxins through sweat than you ever could through your bowel alone? So I love the fact that there's a real focus now on hot detox, and I really get into the science behind it. So I have 600 scientific studies backing up everything that I talk about. There's kind of 3 steps to the hot detox. One, we warm up your food temperature-wise, so we're no longer eating frozen cold smoothies, which are really hard on your digestive fire, actually. And we're also using some wonderful spices to warm up your food, like gentle spices like ginger and cinnamon and cumin and coriander. And then we're moving to energetically warming foods, especially in the winter months. We want to focus on squash and root veggies instead of having those frozen foods that are so hard on our stomach.
Oh, being up in Canada, I love what you're speaking to.
Yeah, right? We totally relate.
We
You're
do.
from the Hamilton area,
I
I
am.
believe?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was born in Hamilton, so
Oh,
I
fantastic.
love Hamilton. Yes, I'm all for the hammer. It's a great place.
Excellent.
Yeah,
So,
neato.
Ju-
Okay,
Julie, I've got one more question from one of our readers, and this one's kind of
sure.
a three-parter, but I think they all sort of fit together.
Hmm.
So she asked, will my energy level be lower during a detox? And then what sort of improvements can you expect afterwards? And then I'll
Hmm.
give you that third part now just so you can sort of think on it. What are some of the everyday diet ideas or exercises I could do to support the detox once it's finished?
I absolutely love using the hot detox for people who do not want to lose energy, because a lot of people find that cleansing can be exhausting because it's calorically restricted. But the great news about the hot detox is that I don't have portion sizes at the bottom, because I want people to scale up or scale down their portions depending on their physical demands. So if you're used to eating 2,000 calories, 2,500 calories because you're an athletic person, we have enough food on the menu to make sure you actually have great energy. I also make sure that we don't go cold turkey off caffeine, because that's a substance that if you go cold turkey off of, you're going to be exhausted, you're going to have headaches. It really can be a massive trigger for people because it's such a hard alkaloid to get off of. So instead I say, can we switch to kinder sources of caffeine and sort of gauge you down, so by the middle of the cleanse you're able to wean off it, but you're not crashing. My big thing is making it doable so that you can stick to it, because a lot of people are very concerned about the side effects of cleansing, and we shouldn't be giving ourselves such a healing crisis that the experience is painful. I'm on day 2 of the hot detox because I actually lead the course live a number of times a year. And right now, everyone's on day 2, and my energy is soaring because, of course, my food is so dialed in. I have so much nutrition coursing through my veins. But I'm also focused on letting go of any food that irritates me, because if you eat a food that you're allergic to, it's absolutely exhausting. So by getting you off of white sugar and white flour and potentially dairy, if you're sensitive to it, you're going to really notice a massive pop in your energy. So not to worry, I really feel that the hot detox is different that way. And you can enjoy kind caffeine, which would be a little bit of cocoa powder or some wonderful chaga mushrooms, which has no caffeine at all, but will give you a huge lift. Or really enjoy some white tea or yerba mate tea, which is certified organic, and will give you just a little bit of the hair of the dog, so to speak, but won't jam your nervous system the same way a cup of coffee would.
Oh, that sounds absolutely delicious. I've had a chance to look
Mm.
through your recipes already, and so I've been sort of testing them out more for my taste and satisfaction. So I'm getting ready to start that cleanse as well. So what sort of improvements can one expect after the detox?
Well, people can immediately, within days, start to notice an improvement in mental clarity, because when you eat the hot detox way, you're actually reducing what we call vata, which in Ayurveda, in the yogic tradition, is the spacey, fearful energy. The vata is a good thing. Vata is the wind energy. But when it becomes deranged, people get fearful, people get anxious, and people really seriously have that spaciness, that brain fog that's just really encompassing a lot of people. And also because the menu is naturally antifungal, we're going to clear candida that also causes the brain fog. So people really notice that right away. Like they sharpen up, they start to feel more positive, because white sugar and white flour literally causes neuroinflammation. So there's a 58% greater chance of suffering from depression if you have a high sugar, high flour diet. So when we get off those two substances and really boost up the produce, there's another scientific study showing that people have a 26% improvement in mental health. So wow, that's a huge swing from having 58% depression risk to 26% less depression. You can see how people immediately feel more buoyant, more positive. And then we really notice that by clearing out the liver and the bowel, people's skin starts to improve. Their dark circles start to go away. Their bloating, their gas, their distension starts to go away. And then within 21 days, almost everyone who needed to lose a few pounds is dropping that weight naturally because of the hormonal balance, because the water weight is gone, because you're off of the foods you're allergic to. You also have less mucus because you're off of mucus-forming foods that are clogging you up, so your lungs are working better, asthma's down, sinus infections are down. So just people overall feel absolutely fantastic. And I mean, I have hundreds and hundreds of testimonials to back this up. It's so exciting to see how many people are emailing me saying, my IBS is gone, my arthritis pain is gone. I couldn't believe that food could be the culprit, that was in the way of me feeling my very best. So if you want juicy vitality, really check it out.
So I'm going to be doing all my prep work this weekend, and
nice.
I'm starting on Monday, so I'm really excited.
Wonderful. Good. Well, pop into that Hot Detox community page. We have a wonderful Facebook page, Hot Detox Community, and that's going to make sure that you're supported with the 1,500 other people that are all checking it out at the same time, posting their versions of the recipes, their photos, getting support from one another. So jump in there, and I think you'll really love it.
Amazing. So, Julie, what are some of the everyday diet ideas or exercises that we can adopt after we finish the detox? So after the program, then what?
Well, we really want to integrate a slow reintroduction schedule of any potential toxins to check out whether we're in fact sensitive to them. So I really say that the most beneficial thing to do at the very end of the cleanse is introduce the irritants one at a time to see if they trigger you. So, you may want to introduce a kinder version of dairy first. So instead of just jumping right back into cow dairy, how about you try on sheep yogurt or sheep cheese or goat cheese or goat yogurt, because those are much easier to digest. They're smaller animals. They're closer to human breast milk. And then when you go to dairy, when you go to standard cow dairy, how about you try like butter first and then go to really well-cultured yogurt that has lots of live bacteria in it, instead of just jumping back to ice cream and cream in your coffee. So we kind of teach how to transition back, and that really helps so many people. And then the same for gluten. How about we stage that in? So instead of just jumping back to wheat flour, we would say, hey, I'm going to try on kamut or spelt first, and then when we get to wheat, then we'll know, am I sensitive to all gluten, or am I just sensitive to wheat? Because if you're lucky, then maybe you can handle the kinder versions of gluten. So that's, I think, one of the great things to do when we finish up the cleanse is really take that break, because you've already been clean for 21 days. Take your time. Don't eat pizza as your reintroduction food, because that's dairy and nitrate-filled meat and lots of gluten right off the top, and you'll never know whether in fact you're sensitive to one or all of those substances.
Oh, not to mention the nightshades from tomatoes.
yeah, right? Yeah, absolutely. Very important.
So, Julie, I have an unusually high cholesterol. Mine is due to
yes.
a rare genetic condition.
Yes.
It's quite a mouthful. It's called familial hypercholesterolemia.
Yes.
And my specialist recommended that I follow something called the National Institute of Health TLC diet. And he also asked me to consider becoming a vegan or a pescatarian to help with my nutrition. So judging by the amount of recipes that you've included in your book, and wow, there are tons, Hot Detox is clearly not a deprivation program. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you've incorporated different dietary needs into the program?
Absolutely. First, I want to speak to what you're dealing with, because I actually knew someone who lived an incredibly long and healthy life with your condition. So I just want to take a moment to say, if anyone has genetically high cholesterol, it doesn't mean you're going to die of heart disease at all. What we want to keep a mind on is the low-density lipoproteins, and I know you know this because you're a health practitioner as well. We really are not concerned around total cholesterol, because luckily there is cholesterol that protects your arteries from damage. So the high-density lipoproteins are totally protective. So total cholesterol levels can be confusing to newbies, and I do want us to zero in on the culprit. And the fact that you know the difference between a saturated fat from animal and a saturated fat from, say, coconut, which is a medium chain triglyceride, which provides caprylic acid and lauric acid and amazing things that clear infections and give you piles of energy. And we really want to differentiate that. I think that's really important. And also to say that cholesterol, we now understand, is not the bee's knees for tuning into your levels of cardiac inflammation. What's way more important is your level of inflammation. So if you were to have a very important test done, I highly recommend every single person listening ask their doctor, because it's a free test, for a C-reactive protein test, or a CRP test for short. It's also known as there's a CRP highly sensitive test, which is really good. Then we get a measurement of your inflammation in your blood, and that is really what we need to worry about. Because if your CRP is like 0.1, 0.3, like anywhere in that range, I'm not worried about your heart at all. Where if somebody had a CRP over 2 or 3, then we're like, whoa, we really got to zero in. And if somebody has a CRP over 10, which I see, which profoundly inflamed people like rheumatoid arthritis patients, we want to dial in some serious anti-inflammatory nutrition. And all of that's in my first book, Meals That Heal Inflammation. So I know you know the stuff, but it's just to broaden it out to your listeners and know there is ways to just feel relaxed within your naturally high cholesterol. And for those who are wanting to change what they're eating, that's why I love that the Hot Detox is super flexible. Like I gave you a vegan plan, I give you an omnivore plan for the paleo folk, because some people have to avoid grains altogether. They feel terrible on grains. And the more I focus in on a paleo menu, after being vegan for many, many years, the more I focus in on more of a paleo plan, the better I feel, the more mental clarity I have, the less bloating I have, because being a vegan was very hard on me. I found my blood pressure was out of whack, my iron was out of whack, I had lots of brain fog. So I think the pescatarian concept is much healthier, much more in keeping with what would be good for you, because omega-3s from fish dramatically reduce negative cholesterol and keep your triglycerides down. So I do hope you keep sustainable or organic fish on the menu, like sardines and anchovies and herring, all those good little fish that profoundly protect your arteries and reduce inflammation systemically.
That was probably one of the things that I had the most fun with when I first came back after seeing, so I saw the dietitian at the clinic, and she said, so start experimenting with fish. And it was amazing the number of recipes that are so easy to modify, or to take, a vegan or a vegetarian recipe that's so rich in nutrients from vegetables and then add to it some fish on top. And so it was really a great experimentation for me and my family as well, to start trying out all these new flavors and recipes that hadn't really been part of our main repertoire.
That's great. And I just want to speak to the TLC diet for a moment, because I love that you brought it up. I never get to talk to it. I despise one of the recommendations with the TLC diet, and I don't use the word despise very often. Can you believe that they're saying that you should have 3 to 5 veggies a day, but they're suggesting 6 servings of bread, cereal, pasta, or rice? I think that is revolting. I think that is irresponsible and extremely behind the times, because this is a recipe for cardiovascular disease. If you ate 6 pieces of bread a day, you are spiking your insulin so high that you're driving serious inflammation into the arterial walls. And we have to remember that when we have high blood sugar, it glycates your membranes within your arteries, and that's when your body spits out extra cholesterol to paste the tears in the arterial walls with that cholesterol, and that's where we end up with plaque buildup. It's okay that you have naturally high cholesterol produced by your liver, but the danger is if that cholesterol becomes wallpaper paste for every artery in your body, because you have very, very, very high blood sugar. So I just can't stand that very backwards backwards piece that they need to fix. We need to get people off of a high grain diet, because those slices of bread will spike your blood sugar way higher than even standard sugar. And that's one thing people don't realize, is you're having 2 full teaspoons of sugar with every piece of bread. So basically they're recommending that you're allowed to have 12 teaspoons of sugar per day. And we know from all the work on inflammation that anything more than 6 teaspoons of sugar a day is spiking your inflammation. So thank you for the moment to speak to the TLC diet, because I almost never get to.
It's quite okay. It's awesome. So one of the things that's been fantastic for me is I actually find a lot of lectures at, whether it's through podcasts or going to local health food stores. That's actually where I first heard you speak, at one of our local health food stores here in Hamilton. And I came home with your first book, Meals That Heal Inflammation.
Nice.
And so one of the things I was really impressed by, both with the Hot Detox and also with that book, was the scientific references, because it brought to me a different level of understanding and knowledge while I was reading. But what surprises me is that inflammation is still not often talked about, even though it's such a cause of dysfunction. So can you tell us a little bit more about how the detox program will help to reduce inflammation and how that helps to heal our body?
Absolutely. Well, the biggest reason why this menu helps to reduce inflammation in your body is because we're removing the foods that harm. By removing the white sugar, the white flour, if you're irritated by dairy, you want to get rid of dairy as well. You're really balancing your blood sugar, and that will immediately reduce your inflammation. We're also dramatically increasing omega-3 fatty acids, and we know now that omega-3 fatty acids have literally the power to switch off inflammation in the body. It literally works like a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. We actually have a good study that shows that within 12 weeks, by increasing omega-3 fatty acids, we can get off a lot of the non-steroidal drugs. So how exciting, that is directly helpful. And then moving on to, we're increasing so much produce that we know is anti-inflammatory. So we're increasing dark leafy greens, we're increasing beets and carrots and squash and all these foods that have wonderful nutrition, vitamin A, B, C, D, like you name it. There's just so much nutrition packed in this menu. And then we also are increasing a lot of the seeds that contain vitamin E. So we're really focusing in on lots of hemp seed, which is my all-time favorite, extremely high in vitamin E. Lots of pumpkin seeds, which contain sterols, which reduce things like prostate inflammation. There's just so much in there. And then I really want to speak to the spices. So by increasing things like turmeric and ginger, those have more scientific studies than virtually any spice or any herb. Just piles and piles of data just showing how turmeric is a powerhouse of anti-inflammatory nutrition, and that everyone should consider increasing these warming spices. And what's funny is if you look at other menus, they just have a tiny shout out to that spice, where in my recipes you're going to notice dramatic amounts of, say, cinnamon, because we know true cinnamon is so powerfully blood sugar regulating that in the right dose, which is 1/4 of a teaspoon per dose, you really feel a difference. But what if your recipe only calls for 1/4 of a teaspoon for the whole recipe? That's why when you see me use cinnamon, I often use like a 1.5 teaspoons to 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, because I want a medicinal dose going into each and every serving. And that's why you'll see when I call it the Hot Detox, I'm using mostly warming spices. I have no cayenne at all because I don't want it too hot, but therapeutic doses of these amazing spices that heal.
So you talked a bit about sort of that inflammation piece, and it's something I'm always mindful of. It's where I started my point of research for myself, because I'm on a fairly high dose of statin. And so one of the things that I still find confusing is how a detox program supports the liver. It's a phrase that gets used often, but it's hard to find out what that really means.
You want to really know the precise nutrients you need to cleanse every part of your liver. So I'm going to take you through the nutrients that you need to cleanse your liver, because it's going to shock you how many nutrients your liver needs to really step up the different pathways your liver has. Your liver has phase 1 and phase 2 of detoxification. So the toxins come in and they run through phase 1, and then they run through phase 2. Now, within phase 2, there's lots of different ways your body can get rid of those toxins. There's you can use the glutathione pathway, the glucuronidation pathway, the acetylation pathway, methylation pathway. We go down the rabbit hole really, really hard, so I'm not going to bore people with the science. But I'm just going to rhyme off the nutrients your liver can use to increase these pathways working efficiently. Vitamin B2, vitamin B6, vitamin C, N-acetylcysteine, which is a type of amino acid, glycine, cysteine, glutamine. These are all amino acids. Zinc, manganese, magnesium, selenium. Where do you get these from? In the average Canadian diet or American diet, you are not getting this sort of nutrition. We are dealing with such severe nutritional deficiencies that people have livers that are parking their toxins instead of ridding their body of toxins because they do not have this precise nutrition on board for it to work. So that pathway is just disabled because it's missing critical nutrition. So that's why the hot detox has this amazing nutrition really focused in. And that's why people are going to be like, wow, here's the science showing if I have this nutrient through literally vitamin A through zinc, then I'm giving my liver the upper hand to purge itself. Really. It would be like having a Formula One race car, and you have this beautiful race car, but you haven't oiled the engine, or you haven't checked the pistons. It's like, how do we expect it to just function from the moment you're born to the moment you die without having those moments of tune-ups? And that's what we're doing with the hot detox. We're giving you an amazing tune-up of nutrition to conquer these terrible nutritional deficiencies.
I love that description. I really like your analogy.
Thank you.
I still remember being in university and not realizing that oil changes were as important as gas.
Yeah. Oh gosh, you know that when your engine seizes for the first time,
yeah.
Which happened to a friend of mine. I'm like, really? You didn't change the oil for 3 years?
Oh no!
The engine just seized one day. So funny. Anyway.
So, Julie, even though your program is scientifically based and it has so much robustness to it, the recipes are delicious, absolutely delicious.
Thank you.
So, do you have a few? Are some of these your go-to, your everyday favorites, even though it's not necessarily part of a detox program?
Yes, because I eat the hot detox about 300 days a year, so I absolutely have these ready to go. I love the cranberry almond muffin. It tastes just like a regular muffin, if not more delicious, because this muffin is creamy and it's got a tart to it. It's got a sweet note. It's just perfectly balanced. But it has no flour in it, which will shock people because it's fluffy. It really has the consistency of a classic muffin, but without any sort of grain whatsoever. It's using almond meal instead of regular flour, so you're going to love that. I also absolutely am head over heels in love with the hot detox bread, and the reason why is because it's like elven bread from Lord of the Rings. You eat a piece and you're like, ooh, I'm so full, I can hike up the mountain and say, Frodo, we're good to go, we don't need any other food. Because people get too hungry on a cleanse. So I wanted to give them something that really sticks to the ribs and feels really sustaining. And it tastes so darn good that you're deeply satisfied, which is what sets this cleanse from other cleanses. It's really going to set it apart because with these treats, you're totally enrolled in sticking with it. I also want the vegans to check out my hemp burger because it has all the nutrients you need. Because a lot of vegetarians and vegans, they're really nutrient deficient in things like magnesium and iron and omega-3. So by making this hemp burger, you've got the nutrition you need, but it also is so delicious. I have to brag for a moment. My dish was actually chosen, the hemp burger was actually chosen to be served at an event for the Oscars this year. So this really is a special burger. It tastes like heaven if you put a chutney on top or really nice grainy mustard on top. People are just in love with it. So enjoy those 3 dishes for sure.
Oh my gosh, that sounds, my mouth is watering.
Good. I'm so glad to hear that.
So, Julie,
Yeah,
I'm going to have,
I mean,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just want to mention that I do have a TV show in 72 countries, which is why I think I became a really good cook. Because I'm a nutritionist, but I was lucky enough to work with Five-Star Chef. And we created a TV show called Healthy Gourmet that airs in 72 countries. So that's why my dishes are at, I think, a different level, is because I need to cook to make sure that the flavor is there. Because when the flavor isn't there, people will not make the recipe a second time. So definitely check out my show, which is, you can just check that out on my website, which is juliedaniluk.com, and I'm sure you'll give a link to that. But also, I also have a Facebook page for it as well, so you can find it in any country. If you're tuning in from another part of the world, know that Healthy Gourmet is, just going off the hook. Thank goodness. I'm excited. We hope to get a 4th season this year.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
I will definitely have links to the notes, to your website,
Nice.
Also where they can find the book, because I know there's a version for Canadians and also for Americans as well, so I'll have all that there. But before we go, tell us a little bit more about the online program that you mentioned, the live coaching program.
Well, I just love the fact that I do believe that if you have a video-based program where you learn how to cook and you walk through the entire science, having it dispensed to you in really digestible chunks of 20 minutes a day, then you really take the book down off the shelf. Because you've noticed a lot of people have the best intentions and they buy another health book, but they never read it cover to cover. So what I did was distill it down into its very best points and really dispense it to you, and I hold your hand through that program. And I also like to run live versions of the program where I do the coaching, where I get people on the call and I make sure that they know what they're doing and answer any sort of questions. So that's why I think that the Hot Detox is really picking up speed, is the amount of support that you get with the Hot Detox program. So please go check that out. It's also the director's cut of the Hot Detox, because I had 500 pages of data that I could not stick in the book. It was just too much. So all of that love got poured into the online program. So you get a much more robust and deep look at detoxification. So whether you want to have your hand held and do a light version or a deep version because you're a nutritionist or another practitioner who really wants the skinny on it, then it's all in there, and it's video-based, so it's super easy, and I'm sure you'll have a special link to that so people can go have a look.
I will, definitely. Julie, before we go, I'm going to surprise you with one last question. Do you have a favorite vegetable?
Oh, yeah. Immediately what springs to mind, I mean, it's a fruit, but it's sort of a veggie, is avocados. I think it's the friendliest food on the planet, and I wish I lived in a climate where I could have avocados. But if you want a pure veggie, I'd have to say arugula, because arugula is spicy and just so sexy. So if you haven't tried it on yet, please try arugula. It's part of the cruciferous family of plants, so it's rich in indole-3-carbinol and sulforaphane and all the wonderful liver detoxifying nutrients, and just so tasty. Love it.
I love that. I started growing it for the first time in my kitchen garden last year, so
good for you.
Love your answer.
So good, so good. That's awesome.
Well, Julie, thank you so much for your time today.
Amazing. So happy to do it. You're such a great interviewer that I feel like I gave brand new data that I'd never said before. So thank you so much for that.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Super. Have a wonderful day.
And to you as well. Thanks for listening today. Be sure to check out the show notes for links, offers, and more details. You'll also be able to find my whole journey of the Hot Detox program on Instagram, because I'll be following the 21-day program. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you're looking for more information or have a suggestion for an upcoming show. You can find those at morethangoodfood.ca, and you can find me on Instagram at Weekly Meal Plan. Until next time, remember that living a healthy life is about more than good food.